Welcome back, and I want to give a shout out again to our charter sponsor, Ashley Furniture Home Stores. Folks, if it weren't for Ashley Furniture Home Stores, we would not be able to broadcast this show live to you week in and week out. I urge you that if you're in the market for anything from a candlestick, a lamp, a rug, all the way up to bedroom groups and dining room groups, think about Ashley Furniture Home Stores. They do support BratCon Radio. We urge you to support them. We have some callers on the line, but before we get to them, during the break we were talking about the size and the scope of the Berlin School. And Laurel, tell me how many again were in the entire Berlin High School when you were there?
18.
And Kate, how many were there when you were there?
Well, it dropped down to about 18 during the airlift, and the height was in the mid-70s.
Okay.
There was just over 800 students there, and then it dropped down to about 300 once the school closed in 1994.
And so in the 80s, you were kind of in the middle of that pack in terms of the total population of the high school itself.
The early 70s was the height of all of it, and the 80s, while I was there, was probably about three-quarters down.
And one other tidbit that's not very well known, we talked about this during the break as well, and that is that a lot of the students were sons and daughters of Pan American Airways pilots and flight attendants.
Yep, we got Pan Am brats too. So there's all kinds of brats. It's not just military service members or dependents or State Department kids. There's all kinds of brats, and we're probably forgetting some of those.
That's wonderful. That's a great story about the Pan Am kids as well. Let's go to our phone lines. Michael, if you could hook us up with Mike in North Carolina. Mike, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you're on the air with Laurel and Kate and Jerry. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, great. Those recounts of the duty train were just tremendous for me, which leads me to a question. In the early 70s, I was in junior high school in Bremerhaven, and we would take the duty train when we played Berlin. We would go to Frankfurt, hook up in Frankfurt, go through, so I can remember going through, and very true what they said. Always struck me as when we got there, I wondered how the dependents there, the brats there, felt regarding the isolation, as one of your guests had mentioned. And I would like for any of them to talk about that. Did they realize how truly isolated they were inside a communist country?
Kate, you want to tackle that, or?
Yeah, we were talking about this before, and actually I remember being angry sometimes that I was stuck on an island and that I wasn't allowed out and I didn't feel free. But those are just the memories that I have, and
but yet you were on the swim team, so you got out a fair amount.
Yeah, we got out a lot, and the swim team was a year-round sport.
But there were times when you were angry about being there and not being able to go just on a whim, and you had to go through all this process of flag orders and everything.
Right, not understanding and just thinking it's just a stupid world to have walls up and not being able to be free and literally looking over the wall and seeing houses and people in East Berlin and in East Germany and thinking, why can't they get out? They're just people just like we are.
Right,
exactly.
Right.
And here's what struck me is even further. My father had 3 different tours in Germany, and I can remember this going for Sunday drives, going on day excursions, and it always struck me that if you live in Berlin, the odds of you going on a very large excursion was non-existent really, unless you went to great lengths with the flag orders back at the time. So
right.
I was curious as to, again, what the disposition of those brats were.
Excellent question, Mike. And
well,
it seems
I have to admit, Berlin was so special, I didn't care about going anywhere else. I thoroughly enjoyed it. My family has been big on a sense of history. I felt very privileged to be there. I did enjoy the trips out, but Berlin was home. And it's still home to me and will always be. Even though I'm American, I love America, Berlin is very special. And the impression that my life there made on me was so deep that it's normal. Whatever you're doing when you're a kid, it's normal.
Sure. Mike, thank you so much for the call. Now, it seems to me that I recognize your voice. You've called the program before, correct? Mike? Mike, are you there? I think Mike is gone. I think Mike has called the program before, and if I'm not mistaken, he's called a number of times since we started airing. And tonight, I know that the followers of the Grateful Dead are called Deadheads, and the followers of Jimmy Buffett are called Parrot Heads. I'm going to anoint Mike from North Carolina our first Brat Head. How do you like that?
That's wonderful.
Let's go back to the phone lines and get Graham Beecham on the line. He was in Berlin, graduate of 65 from Texas now. Graham, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hey, I know Jerry and Kate from Berlin Brats, and I thought it'd be kind of great with all this serious historic discussion if maybe they could take a few minutes and tell the listeners about the party life that we had in Berlin, this little island that we were all so alone.
Now remember, this is being recorded and going worldwide, Graham.
Yeah, well, this was back in the 60s, so it's still probably, PG rated.
Okay.
So, but I thought the listeners would get a kick out of it, that there was a very active social life in Berlin, and that's how really we met most of the natives or the young German kids, the British kids, the French kids, and the rest of the traveling parade that went through the city of Berlin.
Okay. You have any thoughts on that, Kate or Laurel? Or
I think my mom might be listening, so I'm not sure I want to say too much.
Come on, Kate.
But yes, those days were definitely filled with a lot of partying and a lot of good times. I don't know that there was a drinking age. I do remember one time I got caught in a bar, and I didn't get in trouble for being at a bar at 14 or 15. I got in trouble for being at the wrong bar, because my stepfather walked in and he said, "We always need to know where you are," and I was at the wrong bar.
And by the way, speaking of parties, I was told recently by Joe Codrell of Overseas Brats Association that the schools were originally funded by the sales of liquor at the Class 6 stores. So, that kind of was a big incentive to continue to party so that you could fund the school programs, right?
Yeah, and there was a lot of clubs in Berlin.
That's right.
And
There were great clubs. Anybody remember the Badewanne?
No.
Our big one was the Riverboat.
Yeah, the
And the Athena
Riverboat,
Grill.
the big one in
and the
65. And it was terrific because they were dance clubs. It wasn't all about just drinking, but it was about dancing. And then at the youth center, they would have guest artists. And a lot of times after they put on their show at the youth center, they'd go out into the city of Berlin until,
Right.
that appropriate time to go home.
We've got about a minute to the break. I want to try and sneak in one other caller before we go to that break. Is Larry Spear? Graham, thank you for your call, by the way, and we will get a book out to you. Larry Spear, are you there?
Yeah, Dennis, I'm right here.
Yeah, we got about a minute. Larry, go ahead.
Listen, I'm calling you on a cell phone from Brazil.
I love
I'm
it.
Kate's brother.
I
Hi,
love
Larry.
it.
And
Hi, Larry.
hey, Jerry. Listen, I've listened to both your first two broadcasts, and Dennis, I just want to congratulate you on a fantastic job that you're doing. I'm fascinated by this. Laurel's accounts of her being like one of the first Berlin Brats is just mind-blowing to me, and I'm going to get her book, and I'm going to read her experiences. It's fantastic. She's like the grandmother of what we all did in what we used to call the Island of Freedom. And as a Berlin Brat, I've found that through my 45 years of existence, 20 of which includes an Air Force tour. I've retired from the Air Force now. Everything I did, you could say, was seasoned or identified by being a Berlin Brat. And I'm just fascinated by what you're doing.
Super. Appreciate it, Larry, and thank you for the call. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to take some more calls, and we're going to introduce you properly to Jerry Glass, the director of Berlin Brats Association. We'll be right back. You're listening to BratCon Radio on the Voice America Worldwide Network.